Part 1, The Forgotten Boundary. The Drift into Darkness. Commander Tyrus of the Vulcan Diplomatic Corps had made many mistakes in his career, but none would compare to this moment. His small scout ship, the Meridian Light, drifted silently through the void, following the faint energy signature of Research Station Omega-7. The station had broken free from its moorings 3 cycles ago during a solar storm, and Tyrus had volunteered to retrieve it. Simple salvage work, he had thought. Routine. He checked his navigation console again, frowning at the readings. Something felt wrong. The stars looked different here, arranged in patterns he didn't quite recognize from the standard charts. His ship's computer had been acting strangely for the past hour, displaying intermittent warnings that disappeared before he could read them fully. Computer, confirm current position, Tyrus said, his 3-fingered hands dancing across the control interface. The response came after a long pause, longer than normal. Position confirmed. Sector 447 Alpha. Coordinates, warning. Proximity alert. Proximity to what? Tyrus leaned forward, his large eyes narrowing. Before the computer could answer, the view screen exploded with light. Not the light of stars or nebulae, but something else entirely, streams of red energy that materialized from nowhere, forming a geometric pattern that stretched in every direction. Symbols appeared in Thevoid, massive and glowing, written in a language his translator couldn't immediately process. Then the translation came through, and Tyrus felt his blood turn cold. Forbidden Zone. Turn back. This is your only warning. The warning no one expected. The message repeated in 17 different languages, cycling through each one with mechanical precision. Tyrus recognized some of them, ancient tongues that hadn't been spoken in the galaxy for centuries. His hands trembled on the controls as he tried to reverse course, but his engines wouldn't respond. Something had locked onto his ship, holding it in place with invisible force. No, 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 Tyrus whispered, frantically working the controls. This can't be happening. The human zone is 3 sectors away. I checked the charts. But even as he said it, he knew the truth. The charts were wrong. Or rather, they were outdated. The human territory had been marked as forbidden for over 600 years, but the exact boundaries had been lost to time. Most species treated the entire region as myth anyway, a scary story to tell junior pilots. No one actually believed the warnings still functioned. Tyrus was proving them all catastrophically wrong. His communication system crackled to life without his touching it. Static filled the cabin, followed by a voice that sounded like it came from the bottom of an ocean, deep, distorted, and utterly inhuman despite speaking perfect galactic common. Unidentified vessel. You have violated the Silence Treaty. State your purpose. Tyrus's throat felt dry. I am Commander Tyrus of the Vulcan Diplomatic Corps. I'm pursuing a research station that drifted into this sector. I didn't know. I didn't mean to cross the boundary. Please, I'll leave immediately. Silence. Then, you are 47.3 kilometers inside the exclusion zone. Automated defense protocols have been initiated. Your vessel will be disabled and boarded for inspection. Do not resist. Boarded? By who? Humans haven't been seen in. The communication cut off. Through his view screen, Tyrus watched in horror as something emerged from the darkness. It wasn't a ship, not in any traditional sense. It was a structure, massive beyond comprehension, unfolding from what looked like compressed space. Geometric shapes locked together with perfect precision, forming a platform covered in what could only be weapons. Hundreds of them. Thousands. And they were all pointed at his tiny scout ship. The emergency session. 13 billion kilometers away, in the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council, chaos erupted. High Speaker Morvan slammed his resonance staff against the floor 3 times, trying to restore order. The council chamber, which normally maintained dignified silence, had devolved into shouting matches across species lines. Representatives from 40 different civilizations argued simultaneously, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Order. Morven's voice boomed through amplifiers. We will have order. Slowly, the noise subsided. Morven was an elder of the crystalline chorus, a species that had served on the council for over 2,000 years. When he spoke, even the most aggressive species listened. We have confirmed the report, Morven said, his crystalline body resonating with authority. A Velkan scout ship has crossed into human territory. The boundary defense systems have activated for the first time in 612 years. Ambassador Kelthera of the Avian Concord stood, her feathers bristling. This is a disaster. Does the Velkan delegation understand what they've done? What this could mean? The Velkan ambassador, an older diplomat named Saren, rose slowly. His face showed every one of his 50 years. Commander Tyrus is my nephew. He's young and made a terrible mistake, but he deserves rescue, not abandonment. I request this council authorize an immediate retrieval mission. Absolutely not. The shout came from Ambassador Thane, representing the reptilian sovereignty. His species had the longest memory in the council, and the deepest scars. The treaty is absolute. No ship crosses that boundary. Ever. We paid for that treaty in blood and entire civilizations. We will not risk breaking it for one foolish pilot. He's right, another voice added. This came from one of the few species old enough to remember the truth. Some of you treat the human stories as legend. They are not. They are history. Terrible, verified history. Morven raised his staff. Then it is time we shared that history with those who do not remember. Computer, display historical records. Authorization Morven Alpha 1. The Purge Wars. The lights in the chamber dimmed. Above them, holographic images materialized, showing events from 6 centuries past. The truth they forgot. The images showed a species that looked surprisingly fragile, bipedal, soft-skinned, with only 2 eyes and no natural weapons. Humans, in their early space age, reaching out to the galaxy with hope and curiosity. They called themselves humanity, Morven narrated. They came from a world they named Earth, in the Sol system. For 40 years, they traded peacefully with us. They shared their art, their music, their stories. They were creative and passionate, quick to laugh and quick to help. Many of us considered them friends. The images changed, showing human colonies spreading across their local sector. Farms on terraformed worlds. Research stations studying nebulae. Children playing in domed cities. But 7 species grew jealous. The Sol system was rich in resources, rare minerals, unique isotopes, and a planet positioned perfectly for a trade hub. These 7 species formed a secret alliance. They called it Operation Cleansing. What came next made even the hardened warriors in the assembly look away. Ships descending on Earth without warning. Orbital bombardment that lasted 3 days. Cities vaporized. Oceans boiling. A blue world turning gray with ash and death. 17 billion humans died in the initial attack, Morven continued, his voice heavy. The 7 species believed they had eliminated the problem. They began dividing the human worlds among themselves. The hologram shifted to show something different. Humans emerging from underground shelters on colony worlds. Their faces had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and calculating. But humanity did not die. And what survived, changed. New images appeared, showing technology developing at impossible speeds. Ships that moved without visible engines. Weapons that broke the laws of physics. Within 6 months, humanity had gone from victims to something else entirely. They called it the Reckoning, Morven said softly. For 30 years, humanity waged total war. Not just against the 7 species who attacked them, but against anyone who had remained silent. Anyone who had watched Earth burn and done nothing. The hologram showed battles. Human ships appearing from nowhere, striking with precision, then vanishing. Entire fleets disabled without a shot fired. Planets evacuated because humans had learned to destabilize stars. The 7 aggressor species were extinct within 5 years, Morvan continued. Completely erased. Their worlds, their culture, their very genetic code, destroyed. Humanity then turned its attention to the rest of us. Ambassador Kelthera spoke quietly. My species lost 2 billion people in the reckoning. We never even fought them. We just didn't help them when Earth fell. 12 species went extinct, Morvan said. 23 more were reduced to pre-spaceflight populations. The galaxy bled for 30 years until finally, we sued for peace. Humanity's terms were simple: complete isolation. They would withdraw to their sector, and no one would ever cross that boundary. In exchange, they would stop the killing. And we agreed, Thane added bitterly. Because we had no choice. They had one. The hologram faded. The assembly sat in heavy silence. That is why the treaty exists, Morvan concluded. That is why the boundary must never be crossed. Because humanity didn't just defeat us, they terrified us so completely that 600 years later, we still dare not look in their direction. The signal reaches deeper. Back at the boundary, Tyrus sat frozen in his pilot's seat as his ship was drawn toward the massive defense platform. He'd been trying to send distress signals, but nothing was getting through. Whatever technology held his ship also blocked all his communications. Then, without warning, his view screen cleared. Instead of the stars or the platform, he saw something else, a face. It wasn't human, not exactly. It was a construct, a digital representation of intelligence. Features that suggested humanity but were too perfect, too symmetrical. Eyes that glowed with internal light. Commander Tyrus, the construct said. I am Sentinel-7, one of 43 autonomous defense systems protecting human territory. You have violated the Silence Treaty established in Galactic Standard Year 2287. This violation has been logged and reported. Reported? To who? Are there humans still here? The construct's expression didn't change. That information is classified. You will be held in containment until the Council determines appropriate action. Your vessel will not be harmed if you do not resist. Please, Tyrus pleaded. I made a mistake. I was just trying to recover my research station. I didn't mean any harm. Intent is irrelevant. The boundary was marked. You crossed it. The treaty is absolute. Tyrus's ship shuddered as it was pulled into a docking bay inside the massive platform. Through his viewport, he could see the interior, pristine, maintained, as if humans had left yesterday rather than centuries ago. What happens now? He asked. Now, Sentinel-7 replied, we wait. And we see if your species has learned anything in 600 years. The communication ended, and Tyrus was left alone in the silence, surrounded by technology that shouldn't still work, guarded by systems that should have long since failed. But everything functioned perfectly, as if humanity had never truly left. Because they hadn't. Somewhere in the depths of the Forbidden Zone, in places dark and silent, other systems were activating. Deeper intelligences were waking, analyzing the breach, making calculations. And far beyond the edge of known space, in habitats that existed outside the galaxy's normal bounds, a signal was received. Humanity learned that, after 6 centuries of silence, someone had knocked on their door. And now they had to decide whether to answer.